Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This is going to be Tulsa Tough Day 1. This is the Blue Dome Crit or the Blue Dome Criterium. This is our first year racing the P12s. So it's kind of a debate. We've been debating for a while if we should do the 2-3 race since most of our riders are Cat 2. If we should do the 2-3 race or the 1-2. And, I think the girls decided that they wanted to do the 1-2 race and just get experience getting in a large field, a large national caliber race with a large field instead of just doing the 2-3, which we've done before. And we want to grow, we want to improve, we want to keep moving up forward. So we thought maybe it would be better to get some experience in a big field. This is Elisa's camera here, Elisa Luau. We got 3 girls in the race, Elisa Luau, Morgan James, and Marlena Bemis, or Zupchevich, but currently Bemis. So this is Elisa's camera on the first lap. I'm going to show one lap from each girl, from each rider. Elisa's the first lap, Morgan's the second lap, and Marlena's the third lap. Just because, Elisa had kind of like the best race on the day. Morgan and Marlena, they end up doing only about 30 minutes of the crit. If you've done Tulsa Tough before, it's a race of attrition, and usually about half the field finishes that starts. I think we had 103 or 105 girls that started this Blue Dome crit, and that just makes it really tough. Positioning is a big deal. And if it's like your first time doing like this caliber of race, which for Morgan and Marlena, this is definitely their first time doing like a national level race. Other than Valley of the Sun, Elisa raced Redlands Classic and Tour de Bloom. So she's had a little bit of experience in a big, fast field, but really just starting off in bad position. So this is Morgan's camera here. And Morgan got even a worse start than Elisa did, and she's pretty far back here. And you're just stuck in the washing machine, like in the accordion. So yeah, a lot of yo-yoing, a lot of surging back here. And Morgan's more of a sprinter type rider, and it just kind of wore her out. So she got into some pretty good position for, at one point, and then of course got shuffled back. And then once she got shuffled back, it was just, 700 to 900 watts coming out of every corner, trying to surge back up. And she just didn't, she just wasn't used to like this type of field, this type of pace, and position just being so important in this type of field. Our local races, sometimes we'll get a group of 30. And 30 is a pretty big women's field, like no matter where you're at for the most part on local racing. But the difference is when you're in a field of 30 is out of that 30, there's probably, let's say 8 women that are like really strong. All of them are strong, but I mean like really like national level strong. And then you have another group of women that are pretty strong. And then you'll have a group of women that are like just new to the P123 field. So even though it's 30 people, it's not like so heavily contested like this. And it kind of stretches out or there's a lot of breakaway chances, stuff like that. So yeah, that's one lap for Morgan, and then we'll do one lap. The third lap we'll do for Marlena. And this is all in order, it's 3 laps in. I'm not going back to the first lap each time. It's just lap 1, lap 2, and lap 3. So yeah, this is Marlena's camera. I think coming off the start after a couple of times, actually understand this. And I tell them, don't be too discouraged. First time I'm racing this type of thing. Obviously, Marlena's super strong to go. I'm not going to show her race, but in this race, I'm going to see the entire video. She's got to really drop from the peloton. Was able to get around chase back the peloton and close that gap. So if you have that type of sprint, then obviously Yeah, so anyway, back to Elisa's video. Elisa's like a lot further up now. She's still not in great position, but she's doing what she can. And even Elisa, like she's had a couple UCI level races, but she still doesn't have a ton of experience either. She's only been racing for a year. She's actually just moved up to Cat 1 now, and she's been racing for literally about 14 months or so. She's just passed a year. So, super strong, definitely very competitive. She's won a number of races, won a number of pro races. So, yeah, like its strength is not an issue, but now it's just time to gain experience, gain efficiency, being able to slow the race down in your mind. We talked a lot after the race, and the race is just still fast for them. And I don't mean fast like the miles per hour. I mean things processing things too fast. Where once you get used to things and used to this type of field, and you're able to relax in the race, the field will actually appear a little slower to you, and you have a little bit more time to process decision making and where to put your bike, read the flow of the peloton a little better. This is very easy when you're riding in a big field to get shuffled back. Even if you're on the same wheel, you can ride the same wheel. You think you haven't lost any spots because you're still on the same wheel. And there could be 5 girls on the right side that have moved up, 5 on the left. And next thing you know, you're 10 spots back. So yeah, I'm gonna have definitely some long periods of silence here, which some of you would probably appreciate, just because this is a very long video. I thought about running it just raw, but yeah, most of the time people on my channel say they like the voiceover, so I continue to do it. Not to mention when I run it raw, I have to I just listen to the entire thing to make sure nothing's being said inappropriately. I don't want to, put anyone out there really. I like to talk about what goes on. So yeah, if I talk about like an incident or something, that's just me talking about the incident. Please don't take it personal. I don't know anybody in the race or anything, but, not really. So if I say something about something you did, I'm just trying to comment on the action, not the person himself. Yeah, but there's a lot of super strong teams in this race. Basically, if you're in this race, you're strong. I don't care if you finished or not, but if you're in this race, you're a pretty good athlete, and it deserves a level of respect just getting out there and competing. It's hot, it's humid, it's very competitive. There's national champs in this race. There's world champs in this race. There's some just very, very experienced and strong riders in this race. And like I said earlier, there's some very strong riders that got pulled that didn't finish this race. So yeah, if you look back here, the further back you are, the more chaotic it's going to be. Often a lot of these riders that are like kind of further back are a little bit newer, and I don't mean new racers, but new kind of to the field. Sometimes don't have the experience or the comfort to race in big packs like this. So sometimes the moves are a little erratic. There's Holly Breck to our right. I think that's Holly. Yeah, that's Holly. Holly has a lot of experience, very smooth on a bike. She rides for Legion. All the Legion girls have some pretty good experience. So as you can see there, Holly just, pedaled her bike a couple times, moved up about 10, 15 spots. And it doesn't look like it, and it doesn't take much because, it may look like Elisa is kind of close to Holly and Laurel right now, which are just a couple rows in front of them. But because the field is so large, 3 rows up is, 12, 15 spots. You're 3 wide, 4 wide. You can be 9 spots, 9 riders back, 12 riders back, and you kind of get tricked into thinking you're in a good position when there's a large number of riders in between you and where you kind of think you're at. So this is our first race also riding with radios. A lot of congestion right there on the inside, kind of I don't know if somebody dive bombed or not. It kind of looked that way, but it just was a big pile up on the inside there. But this is our first time riding with race radios, and that's one of the bits of information I try to give is letting the women know how far back they are. When you're in a big field like this, it's really easy to fall back and be almost at the tail end of it and not realize it, just because it's really hard to know how many riders are in front of you. When you're racing, uh, 50 riders look like 30 riders sometimes if you can see the front still, and you might think you're in the top third and you're really on the tail end. So every once in a while, let them know that, they're too far back or whatever the case may be. Um, and then another thing in big fields like this, and just in crit racing in general, but for sure when the field's large like this, if you're not moving forward, you're pretty much moving backwards because everyone is trying to get better position. So, like I said earlier, you may not notice it because you're here behind the wheel and there's girls moving up on the left side or there's girls moving up on the right side. So if you're not moving forward, for the most part, you're moving backwards. But at the same time, it's a long race. It's 70 minutes, and you have to stay patient and make some sound decisions. So it's a good job by Lisa finding like the dead spot right there and just kind of moving up and getting into a little bit better position. The thing about this race is, as you can see, there's people really tight on the left side there. But the thing about this race is it doesn't really let up. There's no real recovery spots here. The pace is hot. Um, the field is packed. Everyone's looking to move up or get better position. So, there's some lulls here and there in the action, but for the most part, there's not any like true recovery that you can just guarantee every lap at this location there's recovery. And usually the way the layout is of some of the courses, there's usually a spot where you kind of recover just every lap on that little stretch. And I think this race is just for the makeup of the course and the makeup of the field it was pretty hot pretty much nonstop. You see Laurel shooting up on the left side there, making up a good, like I said, 20, 25 spots just by going 3-4 rows up. And Laurel's pretty big, she's tall, kind of rangy rider, and that's pretty good job by her for just finding a spot that she can kind of slide through and move up without being too disruptive. And it's honestly a skill that's hard to learn if you don't have the opportunity to ride these big fields. So I think for us, this is like, for Elisa, this is her fourth big race this year. Valley of the Sun had a decent amount of riders, probably over 60 riders. Redlands again, in the hundreds, or I'm sorry, at least 100 riders at Redlands Classic. And then Tour de Bloom, I'm not exactly sure how many riders there were, but it's another big UCI race. And now Tulsa with 100 riders almost every day. So you see Kendall Ryan in the Stars and Stripes right there, like one row up in front of Elisa. And you see a little bumping there, not by her, just in general. But yeah, she's definitely would be a good wheel to try to follow and learn from. Right now with that open, I'd stick to that wheel. I see those Stars and Stripes. You see the Legion wheels that are kind of stand out with the zip wheels there. I definitely would try to learn as much as I can and just sit on her wheel and try to see how she navigates this field. I can tell right away, though, one thing I can look at from Kendall is just her body language. There's not a lot of urgency there, which helps you and saves a little bit of your mental fatigue. And I can tell, like, with a lot of the other riders, my riders included, there's a lot of mental fatigue because they're not, like I said, they don't have the experience yet in these big fields, and your brain works overtime, and it's stressful when you see people, almost running into you. You see riders hitting each other. You hear a lot of chatter, and it just becomes mentally fatigued. But if you look at Kendall, her body language is pretty relaxed. She's pretty confident in where she's putting her bike. So that saves a lot of energy. And a lot of people may not factor that in. Sometimes you only think about your legs, lung, and heart rate, but the mental fatigue really plays on you and it rolls over into physical fatigue. So yeah, the general rule is the further you move up in a field like this, the better it is for you. The little bit smoother it is, the more protection you have, and then there's more experienced riders typically at the pointy end of the peloton, especially a large peloton like this. Another thing, just that I spoke about earlier, talking about patience, which again, that corner right there, just it really bottlenecks to the inside there. You would think that people would know it after doing 8 laps so far, but sometimes, like I said, it's hard, and everybody doesn't have the chance to race in really large fields, so it's a unique experience for a lot of people. But one of the things too that can help in fields this size or whatever, and it's kind of a general rule in crit racing to begin with, is when it's fast, just hold your position. When it's really fast, you're kind of seeing red, there's no need to try to move up. Just hold your position when it's really fast, and when it slows down, that's when you take the opportunity to move up. But if you're trying to just move up like the entire time during the race, that's pretty draining, and it's kind of unnecessary too, because if you're going 30 miles per hour, it takes too much energy for you to end up passing someone. And if you're not a sprinter, it's pretty hard to go above 30 miles per hour to begin with on your own power. It's obviously doable, but to go 33 miles per hour on your own power is pretty tough. If the peloton's doing 30, just hold your position. Doing 28, 30 miles per hour, just hold your position. And then, like now, when it's 23, 22, stuff like that, find a place to move up. And often it's just when the riders in front of you start coasting, pedal for another 5 seconds, and you usually can pass a couple people. So there's Kendall again to the left. And like I said, if you just look at her, like, her body language is a lot more relaxed than some of the riders around her. Just looks a lot smoother, a lot more confident on how she's riding and how she handles the bike. See more bumping right there to the inside. Yeah, just a lot of people trying to put their bike in the same spot, as others. It's definitely good to have this angle. I've watched the race from the live feed. They had some really cool drone shots on the weekend, and you'll see the drone every once in a while kind of hovering above the rider's head. But it's always good, in my opinion, to have like an onboard camera. It's good to see it, like what the riders actually experienced. And you can see back here, like I said, if you're not used to this type of congestion and pace and making these decisions at this pace while you're riding really close to other riders, it can be pretty nerve-wracking. For some, it can be an actual, like, outright scary experience. I typically race the Masters 1, 2, 3 now, the 50 plus, and for us, it's a big field every time we race. We cap out at 75 riders, and usually we have 50 plus every single time we race. So for us, it's not as big of a deal, but it's also a lot smoother. Yeah, this seems to be the slowest corner right there. And I'm not exactly sure why. It seems to be pretty close to the, same angle as the other corners. They're all pretty much 90-degree angle, 90-degree corners or 90-degree turns. But it just seems to bottleneck a lot there in that corner. There's LABA right there in front of me. I can't really tell who it is, but LABA in the the zebra print tops and the blue bottoms. We pretty much know all of the LABA riders. They're one of our local teams in Southern California. Yeah, they're definitely on the gas now. Um, Watching the race, you can't see what happens when you're this far back, but from watching the race, there's two women that ends up being in a breakaway here. I don't know if they're off the front yet, but right about the halfway point of the race, maybe just a little bit before they go off the front, and yeah, they're out there for a long time, like incredibly strong women. They had such a huge gap. It's one of the Fount riders there as well. Fount's had a really good year. They pretty much dominated. Well, they did dominate the Redlands Classic. They won every race except the last race. The last race, I believe, Holly won the last race. I forgot what that race is called. It might be called Sunset, if I'm not mistaken. And that's Laurel in front of Elisa now. Again, Laurel's another Goodwill. If I'm in the race and I'm going to try to find one of those people that I'm kind of comfortable with and have a little faith in and just try to ride their wheel, either to learn from them or just to use their energy and kind of move when they move. Laurel's one of the workhorses for Legion, so you'd be pretty confident to think she's going to be near the front at the end of the race. So but these are some of the things you have to learn, because as you navigate a field like this, as you can see, Laurel's moving right there, and Elisa kind of loses her wheel here. And, that's one of the things that's easier said than done if you don't have the chance to really practice it and get comfortable in these fields. Yeah, but this pace has been pretty hot from the beginning. And like I said, when you're back here, everything's magnified. All the intensity's magnified. The accelerations are magnified. It's a little smoother up front. Elisa kind of pinched herself off a little bit there, just drifting too far to the inside. This might be, for a second there, that might be the closest spot she got to. I mean, the furthest up to the front that she was. I can see for a second, I could see the front of the peloton turning when they turn the corner. But yeah, when this field is really stretched out, you can easily be almost an entire turn back. And on the short side, you can be more than a turn back. Yeah, so if you see this Blue Dome crit, the finish line there got over 4%. So like I said, it's not flat. There's definitely a kicker every single lap, and you're doing this for 70 minutes. So, you're going to do about, I don't know, a good 35, 40 laps of this course. So even though it's a small hill, a little bit late there. Elisa, I think she should have made a faster decision there. You either pass before turn in, or I think she should have slotted in. Kingdom Elite's really strong as well. Saw them doing, putting in a lot of work during Speed Week. A lot smaller field at Speed Week, but, it's still a tough field, fast riders. Got one of the butcher box women taking a drink there. This is much better by Elisa making the move there early. Ends up being a little bit double because she made the move on one rider early, and then the second rider, she was almost in the same position there. Yeah, as you can see, it's pretty packed in there. It's pretty congested. Again, if you look at Kendall and Holly went through that corner really smooth. And if you saw, Elisa lost like a good 15 yards or meters in that same corner. She was on pretty much Kendall's wheel, and they kind of carried their speed, went through there pretty fast. But like I said, that just comes in time. It comes with experience. And that's what we're doing here. We're getting experience. Our goal coming in was just trying to find a top 20. And, you know, we were close. We were close, and then we finally achieved it on the last day. But, yeah, I mean, we didn't know what to expect, really. We know our girls are strong. We know they're fit. But you don't know how you stack up in this, like, national, world level competition. I would say national competition. You know, not everybody's on a world level here. But definitely this is a huge national race, maybe the biggest race in America. But, yeah, you never know how you stack up. But, you know, we thought realistically if we got a top 20, that would just be a really good accomplishment for the team. We always shoot for higher. You know, we're always trying to win races, stuff like that. But your goals also need to be realistic. And that's just kind of where we thought we were at kind of coming into it. So, yeah, I'm going to show one lap right here of Marlena and Morgan. That's Morgan in front right there. Marlena's on the camera. This is basically 30 minutes into the race, and the officials told them this was their last lap. So that's Alexa there with LABA. So, yeah, the officials basically told them this is their last lap, and they get to kind of race for this last lap. I thought they were going to be placed, but it turned out that, yeah, they got to race for this last lap, and then they were given a DNF basically at the end of the race. But maybe because it's not the halfway point. I know often in like local races, I think you have to finish the halfway point to get placed if you get pulled. And being that this is a 70-minute race, I think they're just short of halfway. So, yeah, they have a good little chase group here. That's Gabby from LA Sweat sitting on Morgan's wheel. And I think I forgot her name. I think it might be Chappie from LABA. Then Elisa. They go around the ride or die rider, or Marlena went around the ride or die rider and is kind of sitting on Alexa's wheel here. So you can see Morgan's kind of dying, got her head down here. Don't know what happened to that rider there. There was a rider to the left with one of the officials. So coming here, I think they should have opened up the sprint. Marlena kind of opens up the sprint a little bit late and then sprints again the second time. LABA gets the jump. So, yeah, that's it for them, and I'm going to roll it back to Elisa's camera. So, yeah, Elisa knew some of the girls from United, too. She did Tour de Bloom with United as a guest rider. But you can tell the pace is really hot here. They've been going a good 25 to 28 miles per hour for a while now. Yeah, and I think this is, like I said earlier, this is a thing about positioning is at least it's still a little bit far back. And you can see right here, a lot of the girls coasting through the line, but you got to get to a point where you don't have to spike 700 plus watts or 6 to 700 watts out of every corner. You got to get to a point where you can kind of hold your speed a little bit um, better, hold your momentum a little bit better through those turns, and just drop that down at least 100 watts or so. It becomes manageable the lower you get. If you're 4 to 500 watts spiking out of every corner, that's not as bad. But when you're 6 to 700 watts and you have a max sprint of about 800, that's pretty taxing. And again, doing it for 70 minutes, you're going to do 30 plus laps, 8 corners. I don't know the math on that, but that's 240 something times or whatever. That you're going to be doing 600 watts. Yeah, I don't know if my math was right, but that's an insane number if that's the case. Like I said, if you're doing 240 corners and you're spiking out of every corner, that's a pretty hard, 2010 session or 2020 session, 30-30 session, 20-40 session. That's a lot. Typically, you're only going to do around, 30 or 40 of those reps in like a workout. And then all of a sudden you're doing them well over 100 times in a race. So Lisa's position is not too bad. You can see the watts are high, but she's been back here with some pretty good company, some pretty strong women. So, it's not that your position is the worst. Um, it's just being patient, and learning and seeing where the most efficient spots are to move up and try to carry as much speed as possible so you don't spike as much. Yeah, I don't know what her averages were. Like, I don't know what she averaged for the race power-wise. I technically don't know what she averaged speed-wise either. I was just kind of assuming it was probably close to 26 miles per hour average on this race. I could be wrong, though. I probably got to go Strava stock someone or something to see what the averages were. So there you go, another 650 watts out of that corner. And you can tell it's a little more stretched out because there wasn't as much congestion in that corner this time. So yeah, I really like the Tulsa kind of setup. I think the race is pretty well done. And like all the courses are within like walking distance of each other, basically. Definitely riding distance of each other. And we were fortunate enough to have an Airbnb that was pretty close. So the ladies rode to every race instead of, jumping in the car, they rode their bikes to every race. So you can definitely see the pace has settled down a little bit. So that's a pretty good job of Lisa finding some dead spots in the peloton to kind of move up. She's back behind Laurel now with Holly to her right. I think that might be Joyce right there from the Blazers. So yeah, the Legion and the Blazer girls are pretty local to us, so they do a lot of the kind of LA area races also. I shouldn't say a lot. It's kind of like whenever the schedule permits. Yeah, Laurel's a great wheel. I think right there, Elisa could kind of follow her up right there. She made up a good 4 or 5 spots there, and now you can see like Elisa kind of lost that wheel. But I think that would have been a good opportunity to kind of follow Laurel, use a little less energy, and just kind of learn from her and move up. Kind of how she knew where there was a good spot that she could move up at. And that's something you have to kind of log while you're racing is, where can I move up? How do I set up the rider in front of me to move up? Stuff like that. What's the characteristics of the group? Where do they slow down? Where's it kind of fast at? How do people enter and exit the corner? So I think that was something right there. If you saw going through that corner, like Laurel was kind of in a tight spot there, but she kept pedaling. And that's something I kind of preach to my riders as well, is you see a lot of people try to use balance in a tight spot instead of pedaling. And pedaling gives you balance. But a lot of people try to coast and then try to balance their bike, and they end up getting a little nervous and squirrely. And pedaling actually balances your bike and allows you to put it where you want to. Because when you pedal, you have a little bit of leverage through your feet, which we're used to walking with our feet. We're used to using our feet for balance. And when you try to like coast because you're a little nervous going through a tight spot, it ends up like you lose a little bit of control there because you lose the leverage in your feet. And just naturally, we're very adapted to using leverage through our feet. So when you pedal, that provides a little bit more leverage and stability for you and a little bit of more control of your bike. So I think Laurel did a great job of going through that narrow space while keeping her pedal going. And in case she made contact also, she still would have a lot more stability and balance in her feet or through the pedals. And you kind of saw it again there. It wasn't for the same reason, but Laurel picks up her pedal faster than a lot of the other girls around her. She's back pedaling again through the corner before a lot of the other girls are pedaling. Some of the other girls are still coasting. That also helps you prevent from spiking. If you can roll through, even if you're doing like decent watts, but if you can roll through either with the soft pedal or just a constant pedal, either way, it can help you prevent from having all these 700-watt spikes, 600-watt spikes. Because that's hard on everybody, no matter who you are. If you're spiking 700 watts out of every corner, it's very taxing and it's hard on you. It's a pretty good move there, picking that again and picking that dead spot to kind of move up. So yeah, we're down to probably about 8 laps to go or so, maybe 10 laps to go. And definitely the pace is back up again. Again, Laurel would have been a great wheel to kind of stay on. She's a taller rider also, so it's a lot of draft. Elisa's a decent size also. She's not, she's not real tall, but she's not small either. But like I said earlier, I think in this race, it's a lot better to kind of pick someone like Laurel to move up with. She provides a good draft. She's really smooth. And again, like, she's going to be at the front when it's crunch time. Ooh, looks like that rider kind of locked up their brakes for a second. Maybe the United rider. Looks like she hit a real brake and kind of slid for a second. I think she thought the rider in the white kit kind of dive bombed her, she thought. You can tell these women are working hard. This is a hard race, especially to kick off the series with this race. It's a really hard race. It's really fast. Takes a lot of concentration, at least back here. And again, you can see it in the rider's body language. Like, there's a big difference between like the riders that are really comfortable and the riders that are kind of, I don't know, like on a roller coaster ride here. Yeah, so I think some of the girls that are in the breakaway, I didn't know their names, but I think they're both pretty big names on the track. If I'm not mistaken, one was world champion in team pursuit, and I can't remember what the other one was. The other one was maybe a national champion in something on the track. But yeah, they were both very strong, and they had the hammer down for a long time. Yeah, like I said, this is a hard, fast race. I mean, like as an example, the Fount riders, you can see some of them are near the back here also. But Fount pretty much dominated the Redlands Classic, which is another huge race, huge national level race. And I understand like Virginia Blue Ridge wasn't there. Maybe some of these teams weren't there. Um, but Fountain, I think, was the only team in Redlands to have all of their riders because in Redlands there's a time cut, and I think Fountain was the only team that pretty much all of their riders made it to the last stage. And like I said, they won every race except the last race, and so basically I think they won 4 out of 5 races, and of course won the overall series there. Yeah, so honestly, back here, it's kind of been just like hold your position because Elisa's around pretty much the same group of women she's been around for like majority of the race. Other than like the Legion riders being back here sometime, but they've been moving forward and backwards. Other than that, she's been kind of like around the same riders every time. You see one of the Senesca riders to the right there. I think that might be Tess Edwards. Tess has done a great job these last couple of years too. I remember when she was a Cat 4 back a couple years ago, racing against one of the girls that I coach, Marlena. And I remember, Tess won a pretty good race in a breakaway back then as a Cat 4. And then her and Marlena were in a breakaway like the next week. And then Tess was definitely on a catapult to the big time. She moved up to Cat 3, and I think a year later, she got the ride with Senesca. So great job by her, really strong. Seen her a couple times, like on the races in Europe as well. Yeah, they really have the pace up now on this backside. I think 31 is the fastest I've seen them do on the backside here. It's a good job by Elisa right there, just carrying some speed through that turn. Same here. It's a lot easier when it's stretched out. You don't have to worry about somebody hitting the brakes in front of you. Another good job there, carrying some speed, making up a good number of spots there. But then again, like I said, if you're not moving forward, you're kind of moving backwards. As she made up spots, you see the two women from the on her inside pass again there. So yeah, it's definitely winding down. Only a few laps. One of the reasons the pace picked up is, trying to catch the breakaway. Yeah, we kind of nerd out on the races, and being team manager and stuff like that, we have to have the information anyway. But on the sidelines, we were timing the race, and yeah, sometimes the lap times got fairly slow, but in these last couple laps, trying to chase down the breakaway, there was only a few laps left, and we thought it was pretty much over because the break still had like a 30-second gap. And I remember in one lap, the peloton made up 12 seconds. They really had the hammer down, and before that, they were kind of going, no, I wouldn't say slow, but it was like a passive or standard pace basically for the race. And then all of a sudden, they made up 12 seconds in one lap. And it was honestly, it was from a faster lap time, not from the girls coming backwards, just because, like I said, we were timing the laps. Okay, they're really flying now. Like I said, the pace has been hot for a little while now, but yeah, they're definitely really have the pace up. That was Elisa's biggest spike right there, 750 watts out of that corner. And this is still with like a number of laps to go. Yeah, you can see how strung out and spread out the peloton is back here. Yeah, this is such a strong field. Like, these are some really strong girls back here. Good job here, finding some space and just moving up on the left side here. That's a pretty fast corner there. They're at 31 miles per hour through that corner. A little bit of a drift there. Definitely got to come in at a little bit better angle there for the speed. And boom, crash. Good job of kind of making it around. You see Holly up there just made it around that as well. It's only a few laps to go too, so I'm not even sure if any of those women got a free lap or not. Can't remember when they ended the free laps. I don't remember if it was 9 laps to go or 7 to go. But yeah, I'm not sure if those women got a free lap or not. And it's pretty strung out now. As you can see, like, there's a definitely split in the peloton there. So I think that's Holly up there trying to chase back on. Maybe it's Holly and Laurel. But yeah, this group right here is definitely separated from the peloton now. As you can see, there's a big gap right there in between. Looks like it's about a 3-second gap. So they're just about reattached now. Looks like it's down to about 2 seconds. Actually, it's back together now, but just barely. Really stretched out. So it took just about an entire lap to get back on. Another good job there by just rolling back up to the peloton where it's all those empty spaces. And there's Holly there. I think Elisa knew, like, or told me at the time that Holly and Laurel basically ran that, did the work to get that group back attached to the peloton. Almost had an overlap of wheels there by the two Fount women. Well, there was an overlap, but almost hit the back wheel. Which is, funny. I think that was the first crash of this race, but I'm really surprised there wasn't more crashes. So yeah, using the radios for the first time, that's a learning curve for me as well, of just getting the riders like the right information at the right time. Also having the right language to motivate someone, especially when you have different riders. Each person kind of motivates a little bit different. And then also just kind of being at a position where it's quiet enough that you can communicate on the radio. And also, luckily, Tulsa Tough has a big screen. So if you can find a spot that's quiet enough that you can communicate and that allows you to see the big screen so you can see what's going on the other side of the course, that's a pretty good setup. But yeah, myself never managing a team on the radio or whatever, or team radios, yeah, that's a learning curve as well for me, of just, feeding the women like the right information. I think I got better at it through the weekend, but, originally, it was a new experience for me as well. So yeah, we're down to the last few laps here. I think we're about 4 to go. Yeah, and I must say too, Elisa was actually sick this day. She got sick like during the night and kind of threw up a couple times during the day. So definitely was pretty dehydrated racing this race. I'm actually surprised she did as well as she did, just coming into it sick. Don't know what it was, but got some type of illness this day. And when you throw up, that just dehydrates you a lot, takes a lot out of you. It's hard if it's hard to keep food down at all. Um, yeah, that takes a lot out of you. So yeah, it's definitely stretched out. And kind of spoiler alert. Um, I guess I don't have to spoil it because I do have a little bit of footage, but the camera does run out. The camera battery dies with 2 laps to go. So I'm going to switch to some sideline footage for the last lap. But yeah, at this point, everybody's just kind of fighting, giving it all they have back here just to kind of, stay attached and get anything you can here. It's pretty tight going close to the barrier there. Yeah, it's definitely super stretched out single file. I remember, but I think it was Legion and Sineska trying to run this back, trying to run down the breakaway. So yeah, basically with 2 to go, they cut down like 12 seconds of the into the leaders, and then basically caught them on the next lap. And then the race is going to end in a bunch sprint instead of the 2-person breakaway. Yeah, I think this is the best Tulsa Tough I've been to. I've only been there a couple times, but still. Um, last year I think there was only like 40 girls in this field, 40, 50 girls in this field. And this year is over 100 and, in the 90s every race. So yeah, I'm gonna switch to some sideline footage for the final lap. Like I said, the camera cut off like 2 laps with 2 laps to go, so that'll be the only footage I have is from the sideline. Yeah, like I said, this is a super fast race, very competitive. All right, so here's the final lap, final corner. The camera, battery died. You see Alexis Ryan leading out Kendall basically, and Kendall ended up winning the sprint. So there's such a big gap here. I didn't know what happened. I thought maybe there was a crash, so I was worried for a second. And then there's Elisa coming through. She ended up finishing 29th on the day, which is a great finish. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll get the next video out as soon as I can.